What if I told you that the greatest act of leadership in sports history looked exactly like quitting? That a captain at the absolute peak of his powers walked away from everything, and in doing so, saved the very team he seemed to abandon? This is that story. And I promise you, by the end of this video, you'll never look at sacrifice the same way again. Picture this. The stadium is roaring. 80,000 people on their feet. The captain raises the trophy above his head, and in that moment, he's untouchable. This is what glory looks like. This is what every athlete dreams of. But here's what nobody knew. In that exact moment, with confetti raining down and cameras flashing, he had already made a decision that would shock the world. A decision that would destroy his reputation, cost him everything he'd worked for, and somehow, impossibly, become the most selfless act in the history of the sport. His name doesn't matter yet. What matters is what he represented. For 7 years, he had been the heartbeat of this team. Not just the best player, but the soul. The guy who showed up first to training and left last. The one who carried injured teammates off the field. The captain who turned a group of talented individuals into a family. Under his leadership, they'd gone from mid-table mediocrity to back-to-back championship contenders. He was the franchise. The untradeable. The lifer. And he was 29 years old. Prime of his career. Still 3, maybe 4 elite years ahead of him. His contract was solid. His body was healthy. His mind was sharp. Every pundit, every analyst, every fan expected him to captain this team for at least 3 more seasons. To cement his legacy. To retire with his number hanging in the rafters and his name etched in history. So when the news broke 6 weeks after that championship parade, the world stopped. The captain was retiring. Effective immediately. No explanation. No press conference. Just a simple statement released through the team's official channels. Thanking the fans. Thanking his teammates. And walking away from millions of dollars, from glory, from everything. The reaction was instant and brutal. Sports talk shows exploded. Social media went nuclear. How could he? How could he abandon his team right when they needed him most? They'd just won. They were building a dynasty. And their leader, their captain, just quit. Gave up. Walked away like it meant nothing. The theories started flying immediately. Performance-enhancing drugs. Gambling scandal. Secret injury. Family crisis. Affair. Burnout. Mental breakdown. Everyone had an explanation, and none of them were kind. Within 48 hours, the man who had been beloved became the most hated figure in sports. Jerseys were burned. Murals were painted over. His name became synonymous with betrayal. And through it all, he said nothing. Did nothing. Just disappeared. Now here's where the story gets interesting. Because while the world was busy destroying his reputation, something strange was happening with the team. The team everyone said he'd abandoned. The team that was supposed to collapse without him. They didn't collapse. They got better. Not immediately. The first few games were rough. The new captain, a quiet defender who'd been with the team for 5 years, looked lost. The offense sputtered. They dropped their first 3 matches. The media had a field day. See, this is what happens when you quit on your team. This is the chaos he left behind. But then something shifted. Game 4, they found a rhythm. A young midfielder, someone who'd barely played the previous season because the captain's presence meant he couldn't get minutes, suddenly exploded onto the scene. Fast. Creative. Hungry. In Game 7, another young player, a striker who'd been stuck on the bench, scored a hat trick. By Game 15, they'd integrated 3 more academy products into the starting lineup. And they were winning. Not just winning. Dominating. The media narrative started to change. Maybe the captain leaving was addition by subtraction. Maybe he was holding them back. Maybe his shadow was so large that talent couldn't grow beneath it. Look at all these young players thriving now that he's gone. Maybe he did them a favor. Maybe he knew he was the problem. But that wasn't the truth either. And the truth, when it finally came out, was so much more devastating and beautiful than anyone could have imagined. It started with a leak. 18 months after the retirement. A journalist working on a book about the team's championship season interviewed the team doctor. And the doctor, thinking enough time had passed, let something slip. Something about medical records. Something about a private meeting that happened 3 days after the championship parade. The journalist dug deeper. Called in favors. Tracked down sources. And slowly, piece by piece, the real story emerged. The captain hadn't quit because he wanted to. He quit because he had to. But not for the reasons anyone suspected. There was no scandal. No injury. No breakdown. The truth was so much simpler and so much harder. Let me take you back to that meeting with the team doctor. 3 days after the championship. The captain walks into the medical office. He's been having headaches. Nothing major. Probably just stress. Probably just the come down from the intensity of the season. But he wants to get checked out. Routine stuff. The tests come back. And they're not routine at all. The doctor sits him down. Shows him the scans. Explains in careful, clinical terms what they're looking at. A condition. Rare but manageable. Not life-threatening. But progressive. And here's the thing that matters. His reaction time is going to decline. Slowly at first, then. More noticeably. Within 2 years, maybe 3, he'll still be able to play, but he won't be elite. He'll be average. Maybe below average. For most players, this would be devastating but manageable. Play a few more seasons. Retire when the body gives out. Normal career arc. But this captain isn't most players. He's on a max contract. 30 million over 3 years. Money that could sign 2 elite players or 4 solid starters. And here's the gut punch. The team is capped out. Financially maxed. They can't bring in new talent without moving salary. And his salary is unmovable because of how his contract is structured. Trade clauses. No-cut guarantees. He built that contract to ensure security, never imagining this scenario. So the captain does the math. Cold, brutal math. If he stays, he'll decline. The team won't be able to rebuild around him because his contract locks up the money. They'll be stuck with an aging, declining captain eating up resources while younger, cheaper talent sits in the academy, unable to get opportunities. The championship window will close. Maybe forever. But if he retires, the contract is voided. The salary comes off the books immediately. The team can promote from within. Can make moves. Can build something sustainable. The doctor finishes explaining all of this and waits. Expects questions. Expects denial. Expects emotion. Instead, the captain asks one question: if I retire, can the team sign the players they need? The doctor isn't a business guy, but he knows enough. Probably, yes. The captain nods. Then that's what we do. But nobody can know the medical reason. If teams know about this condition, it affects future players with the same diagnosis. Insurance issues. Draft status. I can't be the reason someone else's career gets derailed before it starts. He makes the doctor promise. Makes the front office promise. The official story will be personal reasons. Vague enough to avoid lying. Specific enough to avoid speculation about health. He'll take the heat. Let people think he quit. Let them hate him. As long as the team can move forward. And that's exactly what happened. The front office, bound by his request and by medical privacy laws, stays silent. The doctor, bound by ethics, says nothing. The captain's family, the only other people who know, honor his wishes. And the world, the cruel, reactive world, turns a man who sacrificed everything into a villain. But here's the thing about truth. It has a way of surfacing. That leak to the journalist cracks the dam. More sources come forward. A trainer who noticed the captain asking about reaction time exercises. A teammate who remembers a strange conversation about legacy versus longevity. The team's general manager, finally given permission, confirms the basic timeline without violating medical privacy. The picture becomes clear. And the narrative flips one more time. Except now it's not a flip. It's the actual truth. This man, at the peak of his powers, discovered his peak was ending. And instead of holding on, instead of collecting his money and his glory while the team suffered, he walked away. Gave up tens of millions of dollars. Gave up his reputation. Gave up the chance to pad his statistics and secure Hall of Fame votes. Also that young players could get their chance. Also the team could build something lasting. And it worked. That young midfielder who exploded in Game 4? He's now a 3-time All-Star. The striker with the hat trick? Golden Boot winner 2 seasons running. The quiet defender who became captain? Led the team to 2 more championships. The team the original captain abandoned has become a dynasty. Not despite his departure, but because of it. When the truth finally came out, the public reaction was different this time. No quick flip to hero worship. Instead, something quieter. Something deeper. People started actually thinking about what leadership means. About what sacrifice looks like when nobody's watching. About how the greatest gift you can give sometimes looks exactly like walking away. The captain himself still doesn't do interviews. Still doesn't seek attention. From what people close to him say, he watches every game. Cheers for his former team. Takes genuine joy in seeing those young players succeed. He coaches at a local academy now. Makes decent money, nothing compared to what he gave up, but enough. And he's at peace. His former teammates talk about him differently now. Not with the sadness of loss, but with the reverence of understanding. They get it now. What he did. Why he did it. How much it cost him. The current captain wears the armband, but before every game, he touches the locker where the old captain used to sit. A private ritual. A reminder of what real leadership looks like. Here's what this story teaches us. We live in a world obsessed with glory. With stats and accolades and legacy building. We celebrate players who hang on too long, who accumulate records at the expense of team success, who prioritize personal achievement over collective good. And we call that dedication. We call that loyalty. But maybe the highest form of loyalty is knowing when to step aside. Maybe the greatest act of leadership is making yourself unnecessary. Maybe legacy isn't about what you achieve, but about what you enable others to achieve after you're gone. That captain could have stayed. Could have declined gracefully over 3 years while collecting his money. Nobody would have blamed him. It's what 99% of players do. It's what we expect. But he chose differently. Chose the harder path. The path where he loses everything visible to gain something invisible. The knowledge that he did right by his team even when it destroyed him. And you know what the craziest part is? The team is retiring his number next season. Not because of what he did on the field, though that was extraordinary. But because of what he did off it. Because leadership isn't about being indispensable. It's about making hard choices that benefit others at your own expense. It's about knowing when your presence, no matter how legendary, becomes an obstacle to someone else's growth. That's the story. The captain who quit at his peak and saved his team by walking away. It sounds impossible. It sounds like fiction. But it's real. And somewhere right now, there's another leader facing a similar choice. Another person trying to decide between ego and team. Between legacy and letting go. And maybe, just maybe, this story will help them choose the harder, better path. If this story hit you the way it hit me, do me a favor. Share it. Not for the algorithm, though that helps. But because someone you know needs to hear it. Someone is holding on when they should let go. Someone is confusing their presence with their purpose. Send them this. Let them know that sometimes quitting isn't giving up. Sometimes it's the bravest thing you can do. Subscribe if you want more stories like this. Stories that challenge what we think we know about success and sacrifice. And drop a comment telling me, could you do what that captain did? Could you walk away from everything at your peak if you knew it was right? I'm genuinely curious. Because that's the question that haunts me. That's the question this story asks all of us. When your time comes, when you reach your peak and realize staying means hurting the people you love, will you have the courage to let go? The captain did. And in doing so, he became more than a champion. He became something rarer. Something better. He became free.